Afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing this afternoon? I know you guys are probably like, she's not normally on Thursdays at 1, but I am today. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I know this is a little different, but I love you guys so much, and I love Promise Resource Network so much that we are upping our game. We're doing 3 episodes a month now, where we used to do 2. We are now doing 3 episodes a month. So I'm so thankful to all of you guys watching that heals, and thank you so much to Promise Resource Network as well for sharing this platform. If you are new to That Heals, welcome. If you've been watching my videos, welcome back. My name is Kristen Wells, and I am the owner of Perfect for Candles, which is a Black woman-owned fragrance business based in Charlotte, North Carolina. We make candles, wax melts, we have incense, we have everything you need to make your space smell perfect. And a couple times a month, we like to partner with Promise Resource Network to bring you these videos about healing and making candles and all that good stuff. So this video today is going to be a little bit different. It's a virtual class today, but moving forward, the last Thursday of every month, we will be doing in-person classes at Promise Resource Network. Of course, we'll be following the CDC guidelines for social distancing and mask mandates and all of that good stuff. But if you guys are interested in coming to hang out with me in person, chatting about making candles, talking about healing, please feel free to get in touch with someone at Promise Resource Network and get signed up for those classes. Like I said, it's the last Thursday of every month. Today, this one is virtual because your girl is getting ready to go to the beach. so today's video is going to be virtual, but today's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to walk you through my process for making candles. And we're also going to continue to talk about healing and continue to talk about being completely and totally well and what that looks like through the lens of making candles. So today's topic is replacing what you've lost. Replacing what you've lost. So I want you guys to kind of get started thinking about that, thinking about what that means for you, what that looks like through the lens of your healing and your wellness. If you guys wouldn't mind liking, sharing, commenting, because as always, I want us to be a resource hub for each other, to help each other with our journey to being the best versions of ourselves. So today's video is about replacing what you've lost. So we've got, as always, Facebook on the laptop and Instagram on the phone. So thank you everyone who's with us. And we're going to go ahead and get started. The candle that we are making today is cinnamon and clove. It's a newer one. I have made a few of them, but I haven't added them to my website yet. I've just been test burning. So we're going to make that today, and we'll add these to our website. The oil that we're using is cinnamon and clove from, I don't know if you guys can see it because of the ring light, but cinnamon and clove from the Candlemaker store. And Candlemaker store has, if you're an aspiring candle maker or a soap maker, a lotion maker, body butters, anything like that, they have over 1,500 scents. 1,500 different scents, different fragrance oils. So y'all know I love me some candle science, but Candlemaker store has kind of become my new go-to for fragrance oils. So that's where we got cinnamon and clove from. The keynotes and undertones, of course, the keynotes are going to be cinnamon and clove and wood. And the undertones is going to be tonka, nutmeg, and vanilla. So it's a little sweet, but it's also a little subtle. I think this candle is perfect for a bedroom or bathroom, but it's also really good in a kitchen as well because it's got that cinnamon to it. So y'all know I always like to give y'all the aromatherapy benefits of our candles. So clove, when you eat like whole cloves or crushed cloves that you might have just in your spice cabinet, clove is an antimicrobial, so it helps to get rid of bad bacteria. It's also a good pain reliever. If you chew on it, it's good for like toothaches and headaches, which ginger root is really good for that too. So they're kind of in that same sphere. And then cinnamon is good for your mood, so it helps to reduce depression and anxiety. So that is what we've got going on today. So remember, our topic is replacing what you've lost. So we are going to get into that in just a second. I just want to go over all the candle stuff for us to start out with. Hey, everybody on Facebook, how y'all doing today? So we are going to go ahead and the first step is to glue your wick into your jar. So I do have some of our 4-ounce jars and our 6-ounce jars. I went ahead and glued in the wicks off camera. Some candle makers like to use wicks that have a sticker on the bottom. I like to hot glue my wicks down. It's really just a matter of what you prefer. I like to use hot glue. There's no secret or anything to it. I also use a clothespin to secure my wick, because once you pour your wax in there, your wick will tend to lean to the side. So using a clothespin to secure that. And once you glue down your wicks, you want to measure out your wax. So the amount of wax that you have will determine the amount of fragrance oil that you add in. So I went ahead and measured out our wax, and we have 24.10, so 24.10 ounces of wax. And we're going to do an 8% fragrance load in our wax. So our formula would be how much wax you have times your fragrance load, and then that will give you how much fragrance oil that you need. So we will be using 1.92 ounces of fragrance oil. You can kind of round that up to 2. It just depends on how concentrated you want your candles to be. So I'm going to add our wax to our melter. And while that's melting down, we're going to go ahead and get started on our topic, talking about replacing what you've lost and what that can look like through the lens of healing and beginning your journey to total wellness within yourself. And if you've watched my videos before, you know that I can't multitask. So if I'm ever doing something and I just stop talking, that's what's going on. I can't multitask. All right, so we've got our wax added into our melter, and we're going to go ahead and let that melt down. So if you joined us on Monday night, Monday we talked about, our topic was, who do you think you are? And we talked about how your thoughts can create your reality, and how what you think about yourself and the things that you tell yourself about yourself, how they play such a big role in our healing journey. And towards the end of that conversation on Monday night, we discussed some ways to replace our negative thoughts and our negative ideas about ourselves with positive ones. If you watch that video, you'll remember we talked about interrupting negative thoughts with thoughts of gratitude or thoughts of positivity. So we're going to kind of piggyback off of that tonight when we talk about replacing what you've lost. When it comes to healing and replacing our old habits and our old experiences with new ones, the key to sustaining and maintaining your wellness is to create new experiences, create new thoughts, create new ideas, and to replace those old ones, to replace your traumatic experiences, your traumatic thoughts, to replace your negative thoughts about yourself with new ones. So let's think about it this way. One of the reasons that people fail at diets, right? And there's so many diets. There's high protein diets, keto diets, Atkins diets, low calorie diets, low carb diets, paleo diets. There's so many different diets, right? And more often than not, when people go on a diet, they don't always stick with it. Me included. I've done diets that were supposed to last 30 days and they lasted a week. And I was like, I want a pizza, right? More often than not, diets don't work, right? And we have to wonder, why is it? Why is it that diets don't work? It's because for 20 something years, let's say I'm 26, I'll be 27 in October. For 27 years, I've been eating fried foods and fast food and chips and cookies and ice cream. And then all of a sudden I'm eating salads and protein smoothies and all these low carb grilled instead of fried. And it's a shock to the system, right? And I haven't necessarily replaced my old bad habits with new good ones. I've just shocked myself and just cold turkey decided to do something different. And my body's kind of like, I don't know if we like this or not, right? Oftentimes when we begin our healing journey, we do one of two things. We either dip our toe in and we kind of wade in the water to see how it's going to be, or we just dive in head first, and it's a complete shock to our system. And a lot of times when we do that, we will often relapse back to our old emotions, back to our old experiences, to our old identity of who we used to be, right? And we know that when we're trying to heal and we're trying to process trauma and break generational curses. You cannot relapse back to your old self, right? Because we're moving forward to be the best version of ourselves, to be a better version of ourselves. But a lot of times, the reason that we fall back on what we used to do is because it's familiar, it's comfortable, it's what we know. And we haven't been able to take the time to replace those things with new things, right? So, excuse me. Also, I have my coffee. For those of you that have been watching with me, I have my coffee today. So if I'm talking fast or anything like that, please tell me to slow down, because I don't know. When I'm drinking coffee at all, time doesn't make sense. So the key to sustaining and maintaining your healing, to not falling back on those old habits, is to create new ones, to replace what you've lost, right? I'm going to check on our wax real quick, but I want you guys to think about that. I want you to think about any time in life where you have tried to go through your journey of wellness, when you've tried to begin your healing journey, and for whatever reason, you've fallen back on your old habits, maybe because they were comfortable or because that's what you knew to do, right? So think about that. I'm going to check on our wax, and it looks like it's not completely melted. We got a couple big chunks still in there, but it's looking good. It's almost melting. So once our wax is melted, we are going to put it back into our pouring pitcher, and then we're going to let it cool to a certain temperature, and then we'll add in our fragrance oil. I think my little cup for my fragrance oil is in here somewhere. I don't know. She's around here. But I want you guys to think about that. Think about replacing what you've lost, and think about moving into the next phase of your healing journey. So I just use a little, what is this, a ramekin I got from a Mexican restaurant. I don't think you're supposed to take these, but I took it. Sorry. So we're almost finishing up with our wax here, letting it get nice and melted. So the reason that I chose today's topic, right, replacing what you've lost, is because making candles is my replacement. Making candles for me was replacing what I lost. And when I started going to counseling and therapy, and I started talking to a professional about my depression and my anxiety, a lot of times I was trying to find ways to cope that weren't necessarily the healthiest ways, right? I was doing things that were not so good. And I was doing things that weren't terrible, but they weren't the best. And I would always relapse. I would always relapse back into my negative thoughts or my self-loathing, or I would draw away from my friends and my family because it was comfortable. That was what I knew to do, right? That was what I was familiar with. And I hadn't taken the time, and looking back on it, I might not have had the resources to place new things in place of what I used to have, which is my trauma and my depression and my anxiety. I didn't have the capacity within myself to replace those things. And so I always relapsed back to those because those were the things that I was comfortable with. All right, it looks like our wax is nice and melted. So we are going to pour our wax back into our pouring pitcher. And again, just to remind you guys, if you're just now joining us, our topic for today is replacing what you've lost. And we are looking at that through the lens of healing and wellness and candle making. And we're going to be doing live in-person classes the last Thursday of every month at Promise Resource Network. You guys will be able to come in. We'll talk about healing. We'll make some candles, and you will be able to keep the candles that you make. So that'll be pretty good. If you guys are interested in that, please get in touch with someone at Promise Resource Network and get set up. The next class will be the last Thursday in August. And I don't yet know what our topic will be that night, but I can guarantee you it'll be a good one. So we've got our wax melted down and poured in here. And what we want to do here is to let it cool to a certain temperature before we add in our fragrance oil. The reason we do that, if you add in your fragrance oil at too hot of a temperature, it will actually burn off, and then your candles won't smell like anything. So typically you want to add in your fragrance oil between 183 and 185 degrees. I like to do about 183.3. I know that's really specific, but I've had it sometimes to where I make candles and I add the fragrance oil in at too high of a temperature, and I can kind of see the vapors coming off. And I don't like that. So we're going to use our thermometer to just check the temperature. And once it cools down to that 183, 185 range, we can go ahead and add in our fragrance oil. So it looks like right now we're sitting comfortably at 198. So we got a little minute before we can add that oil in. So we're going to keep talking about replacing what you've lost. So yeah, I chose today's topic because candles are my replacement. And you have to be able to find something that can replace what you've lost. A lot of times when we have trauma, when we have mental crises, when we have different things like that, a lot of times, especially if it's something that happened to us when we were really young, it'll be something that we carry with us, right? We carry it with us for so long that it becomes a part of who we are. It becomes a part of our identity and how we identify ourselves. And so it comes to a point where you can't really imagine yourself without it. Think about that. Like it becomes a part of who you are. I'm a survivor of this, or I've experienced that. And that becomes your story, and that becomes who you identify as. And so it becomes a lot harder to think about, well, who could I be if I wasn't that person? Who could I be if this wasn't my story, right? So again, you guys, I can't multitask. I'm like looking at my notes and looking at my wax and looking at you. But please feel free to comment, share your stories, chit chat with me, chit chat with each other. As always, I want us to be able to talk to each other about what we're experiencing on our healing journey. So yeah, when I had depression, I still do, but when I was really suffering with my depression, really like in it, I didn't have anything to replace my trauma that I was getting off of me. And so I would fall back on it because it was what I was comfortable with. Tanisha. Hi, Tanisha. Thank you for joining us. Hi, can we learn to make candles? Yes. So this video is a little different, Tanisha. I don't know if you've seen any of my other ones, but I am going more in depth with candle making in this one. But the last Thursday of every month, I'll be doing in-person classes at Promise Resource Network. So I'll teach you how to make candles, and we'll also talk about healing as well. So if you're interested in that, please get in touch with someone from PRN, because I would love to see you there. I would love to show you how to make a candle. It's super fun and healing, and I love it. So yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we are all healing from childhood trauma. I think that's I wonder why that is. Like, I don't have an answer for that. I wish I did, but I think just the way, I think especially African Americans and especially Black women, I think we are still healing from generations and generations worth of trauma. And I think a lot of our family legacy and our family histories come from survival. And when you are living based on survival, you're not thinking about thriving. You're dreaming of thriving, but you're thinking about surviving. And I think that a lot of that mentality has been passed down to us, especially Black women. And so I think, therapy is important, counseling is important, talking to someone is important. And even just conversations like this are very important to help us be the best version of ourselves, So we're going to check on the temperature of our wax. I think it's still kind of hot in here, but we'll see. It looks like, okay. So we're sitting at about 186. So I'll go ahead and pour our fragrance oil and set it to the side. But let's think about replacing what you've lost, right? I did a video a few weeks ago. And in that video, one of the things that I mentioned was I made an analogy about being sick, right? Being nauseous and going to the hospital and stuff like that, the first thing that they're going to do is give you an IV, right? They're going to give you fluids. They're going to want to make sure that you're hydrated. And when you're sick and you're nauseous and you're having stomach issues, one thing that you're going to want to do, right, is drink some Pedialyte or some Gatorade or some water. That's because when your body expels the thing or gets rid of the thing that's making you sick, you have to replace it with things that are going to make you healthy again. And that is physical healing, but it can also be applied to mental, emotional, just a total aspect of wellness within your body. So when we talk about replacing what you lost, we have to talk about putting new things in, peeling off the layers of the things that keep us low, keep us stagnant within our healing process. And we have to be able to add new things to make ourselves better, right? So I'm going to go ahead and add in, and we're doing about 1.92 ounces of fragrance oil. I'm going to round it up to 2 because, why not, The better it smells, the better. All right, so again, we are using the cinnamon and clove fragrance oil from Candle Maker Store online. So we poured our fragrance oil, and we're just going to set that to the side until our wax cools down. So let's see here. So yeah, once you are able to identify what it is about yourself that you want to peel off, that you want to replace, that you want to try something new, we talk about a lot of times being an active agent, playing an active role in your own healing. When you decide to play an active role in your own healing, when you make up in your mind that you want to be that agent of healing within yourself, you can't help but wonder who you'll be without your trauma, right? Like I said, a lot of times, if it's something that we've carried with us for a long time, we can't imagine ourselves without it. But once you choose to play an active role in your own healing, you can't help but wonder who you would be without it, right? Has anyone ever seen Grey's Anatomy? Like, I'm a huge Grey's Anatomy fan. In the early episodes of Grey's Anatomy, does anyone remember when Meredith went to Derek and now granted she was trying to get him to leave his wife, which was not okay, but she looked at him and she said, "Pick me, choose me, love me." Does anyone else remember that if you watch Grey's Anatomy? You have to apply that to yourself, right? Pick yourself, choose yourself, love yourself. Above all else, pick you, choose you, love you, right? You have to choose healing. You have to wake up every day and actively choose. And that's why we talked on Monday about interrupting those negative thoughts with positive thoughts. It's because it all starts up here. It all starts up here, and everything else will follow after that. I'm just checking the temperature of our wax. So I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. I told you I like to pour my fragrance oil in my wax between about 183 and 185 degrees Fahrenheit. So right now it's at 185. So I'll give it a good stir for another couple of seconds until it gets to 183. So I'll let you in on a little secret. When you pour your fragrance oil into your wax, you want to pour it slowly, because 9 times out of 10, your fragrance oil is going to be room temperature. It's going to be much cooler than your wax is. So if you just dump it in there, it's going to drastically cool your wax down, and your wax won't really have time to absorb the fragrance oil, right? So you want to pour it in slowly, and then you want to stir it around for a little bit until it cools down some more. Now, most candle makers will tell you that you want to pour your wax into your jar at about 173 degrees. I like to pour my wax into my jar at 160 degrees. It gives your wax and your fragrance oil ample time to gel together, to marinate together, and it's going to give you a nice, even smell. It's going to give you a nice, even smell in your candle, and it's going to make your candle much more concentrated. So that's just my little secret. Just keep that between us, okay? So we're just stirring it up now. And again, any of the candles that I make on our episodes of That Heals, they're going to be available on my website, www.perfectforcandles.com. We are going to be running a month-long sale in the month of August, so be sure you put your email address in and stuff like that so we can let you know when that sale starts. All right. So it looks like we are perfect. So we are at 183.4, which is good enough for me. So you want to take your fragrance oil and pour it slowly. I spilled a little bit of it, but that's okay. All right, so it's slowly poured in there. And then we just mix it until it gets down to 160. While we're mixing, we want to talk about replacing what you lost, replacing what it is about yourself that you've gotten rid of in an effort to be a better version of yourself. Now, when we talk about replacing what you've lost, when we talk about getting rid of those negative aspects, those aspects that are keeping you down, keeping you stagnant, keeping you from being the best version of yourself, when we talk about replacing what you've lost, what we are not talking about is creating new habits that don't serve you, right? We're not talking about coping mechanisms that aren't good for you, right? I know that some people really struggle with, and for a long time, I've been one of those people as well that will use maybe drugs or alcohol or sex or any other things like that to cope because you want to heal, you want to be a better version of yourself, but you don't know how to create something positive because that's not something that you've known or something that you've been shown. And so we continue to do these self-destructive things, even though it's different, it's new, it's not what I've been doing, but it's still not what you need to be a better you, right? So when we talk about replacing what you've lost, we're not talking about adding in more destructive habits, right? We're talking about finding something that makes living worthwhile for you. Finding something that makes you want to get up out of bed in the morning. And I say something because you don't want to place that pressure on another human being, right? As much as I love my partner, he's amazing, but I would never feel comfortable placing the pressure on him that he's the reason I get out of bed in the morning and he saved my life. And that's a lot of pressure to put on another person, right? And that's not fair to you either, because what if it's temporary? And then when it's over, you're right back to where you started, looking for another coping mechanism. So we're not talking about self-destructive coping mechanisms. Hi, Roberta. How are you? How are you? Tanisha said, I want to peel off abuse and active unconditional love and be free and forgive. Forgiveness is difficult. I think we did a video on forgiveness. We might not have. I think I started to do a video on forgiveness and I was like, I still need to work on that before I tell other people about that. So forgiveness is difficult. We all want that. I don't have any advice for you on that yet because I'm still trying to forgive people. When you figure it out, let me know. Let me know. Said I let go of the pain and shame. I replace it with self-love, art, and music. I paint and create. That's good. I think the arts are very healing. And when I say the arts, I don't always mean like painting or drawing or things like that, because we're not all artists. Like me personally, I'm a stick people girl. I'm not an artist. But the arts in and of itself, music, being out in nature, watching a movie, those things can be very therapeutic and they can help you heal. And sometimes depending on what you're doing with the arts, they have a lot of lessons that you can learn. So I'll share a poem with you. Yeah, Tanisha, share a poem with me. If you wanna send it to me or if you want to post it in here. Did you want me to read it on the video? I can. Or if you just wanted to share it in private, we can do that. It's up to you. Yeah, forgiveness is very difficult, but forgiveness is key when we're talking about moving into our wellness, moving into our healing, being the best version of ourselves. Because it took me a long time to understand what older people would tell me when they would say forgiveness isn't for them, forgiveness is for you. It's starting to click now. Some days it don't click because some days it's like you don't deserve my forgiveness, right? But it's not for them. It's for you. It's so that you can lay your head on your pillow at night and be free of the anger and the shame and the guilt and the stress that comes with holding a grudge, right? That comes with holding a grudge on someone. And sometimes it's easier said than done. Like, people can do some really horrible things to you, or you can experience some really terrible things. And so it's not easy to just be like, I forgive you, because sometimes you don't feel like people are deserving of your forgiveness. Let's see. I need to forgive totally and never pick it back up later. We all do. We all do. And I have this thing where I don't know if this happens to anyone else, but like, I'll just be sitting watching TV, minding my business, and I'll think like, I really should have cussed that person out 4 years ago. And I'll be like, where did that thought even come from? It's because I haven't totally forgiven them, and maybe I haven't totally forgiven myself in a situation. But you can't think like that, you know? That's robbing you of your peace. It's robbing you of your moment. It's robbing you of your balance. Let's see. Forgiveness is for us. The person has moved on. Right. That's a good point, Tanisha. A lot of times, the person that we're like, well, they don't deserve my forgiveness. They don't care. They don't care. They done screwed you over and moved on. They don't even probably remember doing it. Forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is for you. So on a candle note, our wax has cooled down. So I'm going to go ahead and pour it into our jars. Again, I have our 6-ounce jars that we normally have, and I also have our 4-ounce jars. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that. And so if you're just joining us, we are talking, well, the topic for today was replacing what you've lost, but we kind of started talking about forgiveness, which I'm not even mad at. Like, we can keep talking about that because I'm not mad at it. But forgiveness is difficult. A lot of the things, this is why I say that you have to play an active role in your own healing, because healing is, it's a verb. It's an action word, right? It's something that you have to actively do. You have to actively say, I want to move from healing to healed, right? I want to be better. I want to feel like myself. I want to be free of the things that are weighing me down. And you have to actively be involved in that. That's why it's hard. That's why forgiveness is hard. That's why self-love is hard. That's why creating positive thoughts for yourself is hard. It's because it's an action word. It's a verb. You have to do it consistently, right? Which consistency can be the hard part too, especially if you've been used to thinking a certain way, or living a certain way, or imagining your life to be a certain way. You have to consistently work on better for yourself. So we've got our candles poured. We have 3 6-ounces and 2 4-ounces, and then we have a little shorty here. I don't know what's going on with little shorty, but we got a little shorty. So what we do, or what I do, once I have the candles poured, I let them cool for 24 hours. Typically, after they've cooled, they'll kind of form what I call sinkholes around the wicks, and from there, I just take a heat gun and I melt the wax at the top until the sinkhole is filled. And then I'll add some flowers to the top to make it really pretty. I'm going to share Tanisha's poem with you guys because I feel like my mom commented and said, Shorty belongs to me. At this point, ma'am, you could come get her because I don't know what's going on. I want to share with you guys Tanisha's poem because it's a poem about forgiveness, and that we kind of delved into forgiveness today, which again, I'm not mad at. So, it says, holding on to pain, shame, regret, blame only begets a train of thought. I thought I had you forever. I thought we were meant to be. I thought we would fly together. Never knew love could clip my wings. Why does life fly by with passing skies, walking hand in hand through scenery? You taught me how to fly, danced into my pain, taught me how to move, my feet past defeat, back on track, running fast into clarity until you set me free. That's beautiful. I know that it's inspired by maybe not a beautiful moment in your life, But that was very beautiful. I think for me, journaling and poetry helps as well when I'm going through something. So I encourage you to keep doing that because I have tears in my eyes, but I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry in front of y'all. But Tanisha, I encourage you to continue to write and continue to get your feelings out on paper. That's a great way too to expel negative or to expel moments out of your body that you want to get rid of is to put them down on paper. And you can always go back and read them later. You could burn them. You could put them on. There's websites where you can put your poetry and like get paid for it and stuff like that. So I would encourage you to keep doing that. And use that as a tool for your healing as well. Maybe that's the thing, maybe journaling and poetry, maybe that's your replacement. Maybe that's the thing to help you replace what you've lost in terms of uh, getting rid of trauma, getting rid of negative experiences, getting rid of bad memories. Maybe journaling and poetry is your replacement. So I would encourage you to continue with that. All right, you guys. So we've got our candles poured. We're going to let them sit for 24 hours. And then we'll put some flowers in them. I'll have pictures of them on my Instagram and stuff like that, and I'll add them to the website. So because these are cinnamon and clove candles, I top these with whole cloves, like just the cloves you get from the grocery store. And it really brings out the smell once you start to burn it. So I'm excited to share those with you guys on our website. All right, all right, all right. Thank you all so much for commenting. So what are some ways that, because we have some comments going, I feel like we're all having a conversation, we're having a chit chat, and I love it. What are some ways that you all think that you can replace what you've lost? If you want to share with the group, or if you just want to keep it in your mind and think about it, I challenge everyone to find a replacement, right? Find a replacement for your bad memories, find a replacement for your bad thoughts and things like that. Me personally, I am taking August to fast. I'm taking the month of August to fast from things that I feel like have been holding me back, things that have been keeping me stagnant, things that have been just making me a lesser version of myself. And I've done fasts before, and typically they go well, right? But I've never done a 30-day fast. So I'm trying to figure out the negative things that I'm fasting from, the things that are holding me back that I'm fasting from. What can I replace them with, right? What positive things can I replace them with? And again, we're not talking about coping mechanisms, right? Because immediately I said, okay, well, I'm going to fast from alcohol. I'm not going to drink during the month of August. And because I'm not drinking, I'm just going to work harder, right? I'm just going to do more work. That's not a bad idea, right? Because if you don't do the work, it doesn't get done. But at the same time, am I using work as a coping mechanism? Am I using work as a distraction from what I really need to be working on, which is my self work, right? Which is my praying, my meditating, my healthy eating, my exercise. Am I using work as a coping mechanism? So when we're talking about replacing what you've lost and creating new habits to replace the old bad habits, you want to make sure that it's something that's bettering you and it's not just a replacement, right? It has to be more than just a replacement. It has to be something that's going to propel you forward into your wellness and into your healing. Because the ultimate goal, we throw the word healing around, like the name of the show is That Heals. We throw the word healing around a lot, but the ultimate goal is to go from healing to healed, right? Is to go from healing to healed, to be complete and to be whole and to have total wellness within your life. And that's one thing that we all have to work on. And it may take a lifetime worth of work, right? It's easier said than done. You don't just wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, forgiveness, self-love, emotions, emotional control. You don't just wake up the next day and have it all together. There have been people in their 50s, 60s, 70s who don't have it all together, and that is okay. That is why I always say I want us to be a healing hub and a resource hub for each other, because as a human collective, we are in this thing together, man. This is a crazy world with a lot of weird, crazy stuff going on, and it can be overwhelming, and it can be stressful, and it can be upsetting, but if we work together as a human collective, I know that might be a little idealistic of me, but if we work together as a human collective to help each other heal, to love each other, to hold each other accountable, I truly believe that we can get somewhere in life. Let's see. Let's look at Tanisha posted the second part of her poem. Let's see. Um let's see. Oh, and Christine said, very nice poem. Back to work. Thank you, Christine, for joining us. Thanks, Mom, for joining us today. Tanisha said, I wasn't supposed to love you. I wasn't supposed to attach my pain to grief. Your sole purpose was to teach me the art of war is breaking free. The setup I saw was my mind playing tricks on me, mastering silence. I can finally say my piece. Forgiveness I give to you, deserving more than words, can perfectly design, giving the space to let time heal, giving you room to breathe. Yeah, I feel like I want to encourage you to continue journaling and to continue, even if it's, if it's not your passion or anything like that. If you don't want to be a poet, that's fine. But I do encourage you to use that as a tool for your healing, even if you just get a journal book and you just keep it to yourself. It's just, you keep it on your nightstand or something, you just scribble journals in it or poems in it. I would encourage you to continue doing that. Forgiveness is hard when it comes to, especially when you have to forgive people that you didn't think you would have to forgive, right? When you have to forgive people that you thought were on your team, you thought they loved you, you thought they were on your side, you thought they were your person. And I think sometimes that is harder than forgiving yourself, right? Because there's that aspect of, I have to forgive this person for being a crappy person to me when I didn't expect it or I didn't deserve it. But I also have to forgive myself for putting up with it. I have to forgive myself for not seeing the red flags. I have to forgive myself for settling for less than what I deserve, right? And I think that forgiving yourself sometimes is the hardest part of forgiveness. But I encourage everyone to do that, because at the end of the day, when we talk about being an active agent and being radical in your own healing, forgiving yourself there's a lot of keys, but forgiving yourself is definitely a key, right? Forgiving yourself is very important. Let's see. Bonnie Lee, thank you for joining us. Bonnie Lee said, the healed place is when you have reached the place you are prepared internally and no external resources to be able to handle anything with grace, to carry on in grief and growth as well as in peace and love. Absolutely. Absolutely. Your healed place is internal, right? Your healed place is when you get to that point where you can recognize the external forces, you can recognize what's happening outside of yourself, but you have a place of peace internally. And so those external things, they don't get to you as much, right? When you move from healing to healed, those external things don't make you as angry, as anxious, as depressed. They don't get to you as much because you found that place of peace within yourself, that place of balance within yourself. Thank you, Bonnie Lee. I appreciated that. I really agree with that. Yeah. There's so many aspects of healing, you guys. And this has been a great conversation. Like, we have a few more minutes left. And I just want to say, I appreciate all of you guys. This has been a really, really great conversation. And I want to encourage you all to find that thing, right? Find that thing that makes life worth living for you. Find that inner peace and that inner balance. And again, it's not going to happen overnight. Like, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, you know what? She was right. I'm healed. Like, that's not how it happened. I'm not even completely healed, right? So one of the things when I do these videos, I love talking to you all because I get information from you just as much as I give information, right? So I want to encourage all of us, you, me, everybody in the comments, everybody who's not in the comments, but who's still watching. I want to encourage all of us to find that thing, right? To replace what we've lost, to not feel afraid, to no longer identify with your trauma, right? You don't have to be a victim, right? You don't have to be a victim of what has happened or what someone did to you, or maybe what you did to yourself or what you accepted. You don't have to be a victim to your grief or to your shame, to your trauma, to the generational curses. You don't have to allow those things to identify you anymore. It's a great big world out there. And you have, like we talked about on Monday, your thoughts create your reality, right? So you have the opportunity up here to make conscious decisions and to choose to create a reality for yourself that makes you better, a reality for yourself that sets up boundaries to where people can't penetrate it and knock you off your game, right? You have that option for yourself. And I want to encourage us all to do that. So we are going to start to bring, as my dad would say, we're going to bring the plane into the hangar. The older you get, the more you realize, like, I am turning into my parents. Like, I use all of their little, like, their sayings and stuff like that. And I'll be like, I'll say it and I'll be like, I sound like my mom. I sound like my dad. I'm going to get a sip of coffee really quickly. I think I did good. I haven't taken a sip of coffee this whole video. I think I did good. So again, we are going to let our candles cool for 24 hours, and then we're going to add our toppings to them tomorrow. And then we'll add them to our website. So again, I do That Heals. Now I do them 3 times a month. So we have the second Monday and the last Monday of every month at 5 o'clock. And then we have the last Thursday of every month at 1 o'clock. So I know this is kind of midday and some people might be at work and stuff like that. So if you want to, please like Promise Resource Network on Facebook. Subscribe to Promise Resource Network on YouTube, so that way you can have these videos and all of the other videos from all the other amazing classes and content creators available to you at your disposal. So please do that, because I love having these conversations with you all. If you're on Instagram, that goes for you as well. Please like and follow Promise Resource Network on Facebook and YouTube. I do these videos just on my own personal Instagram account, so please share these with your friends, family, so we can always be a healing hub and a resource hub for each other. Miss Bonnie Lee, you jumped in the conversation, had a lot of good stuff. Let's see. The challenge is to learn to release the physical attachment to pains. That is the true depth of healing. Ooh, I'm going to read that again. The challenge is to learn to release the physical attachment to pains. That is the true depth of healing. Again, I agree. Being attached to things, and that's one of the things we talked about earlier, was a lot of times, if you've carried your trauma with you, if you've carried it as a badge of honor, sometimes it's hard to imagine who you'll be without it. And so it's hard to begin the process of healing because you're attached to the way you identify with your trauma, the way your trauma identifies you, right? You're attached to it. And another thing, since we're talking about attachment real quick before we get out of here today, I had to learn that people are just people, and people do the best they can with what they have. That doesn't mean that sometimes they're not crappy people, they're not slimy people, they're not terrible people, and they do terrible things sometimes, but people are just people, and people do the best they can with what they have. And once I grabbed a hold of that and I released my attachment, right? I was attached to these ideas of how people should treat me, or I'm attached to these ideas of what people should, how people should respect me, or things like that. Once you release that attachment, it will make everything so much easier, right? It makes it easier to deal with. Now, it's still difficult. I'm not saying things just roll off your back, right? It's still difficult to deal with pain and heartbreak and loss. But when you release attachment from things, right, it makes it so much easier to put things into perspective. It gives you context, right? It says, growing up, and this is just an example, like my parents were good parents. But let's say, like you're saying, growing up, my parents were really crappy. Like my mom was never there. My dad was absent. My parents were abusive or whatever, this, that, and the third. When you can look and say, people are just people, and people do the best they can with what they have. That was the skill set that that person had. And with you being in their life at that exact moment, that was what they knew to do. It doesn't make it any less sucky. It doesn't make it any less hurtful, but it does give you context to remove your attachment from a situation and say, it wasn't me, right? A lot of times our bad experiences come from us feeling like it's our fault, or we did something to deserve something, or we did something wrong. Or even if you think like, I didn't deserve that, but subconsciously you feel like maybe I did do something to deserve it, right? When you can put things like that into context, you could say, I didn't do anything to deserve that. So it wasn't my fault. It was that person. That person needs healing just as much as I do. That person needs to talk to someone just as much as I do, right? Trauma can manifest differently in different people. And so, whereas I might be traumatized by something and I drink a lot of wine, somebody might be traumatized by something and they work a lot, or someone may have been abused as a child and now they inflict that pain upon other people. Trauma manifests itself differently in different people. And so to remove your attachments from people and from ideals of people, it will really help you in the long run to give you context to say, it wasn't me. I did the best I could, and I'm gonna pray for you. Sometimes that's all you can do, right? You can try and get people the help that they need, but you can't help people who don't want to be helped. So I did the best I can, and I'm gonna pray for you. So I want to challenge you all, because we're winding down here. This has been great. Thank y'all so much for this. This was my first daytime video. So thank you all so much for participating. And Tanisha, keep up with the poetry. Keep up, again, even if it's just a journal you keep by your nightstand, keep up with it, right? And allow that to be one of your tools for your healing. Allow your pen and paper to help you expel that negativity coming out of you, right? Miss Bonnie Lee, thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you so much for chiming in today. Thank you so much. Miss Roberta, I know you were on here earlier. Thank you for joining in. My mom was on here. She's gone back to work, but thank you. Skylar, you were here earlier. Thank you. Esteban, thank you for joining us. Everyone on Instagram, thank you. Promise Resource Network, thank you so much for sharing this platform with me. As always, I love you guys. I challenge you all, when you are getting rid of that negative stuff, when you're getting rid of that trauma, breaking those generational curses, find something to replace it, something positive, something uplifting, something that is going to propel you forward and push you into being the best version of yourself, something that is going to help you gain that total wellness that you deserve, right? So I challenge you all to do that. I love you all so much. I hope that everyone has an amazing weekend and an amazing next week. Yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Please, again, like and subscribe to Promise Resource Network on Facebook and YouTube. And you can purchase any of these candles or just check them out at www.perfectforcandles.com. I love you guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.